For years, animation has been a part of our hearts. It's a part of many people's childhoods, and likely yours as well. Many adults go back and rewatch the old TV shows and movies that they grew up watching, and they usually think, hey, that was actually pretty good. Animation is surely something much more than just moving pictures. But the sad part is that in our year of 2025, it has slowly faded away. Now, instead of getting memorable stories both kids and adults alike can enjoy, we get useless sequels and live-action remakes that no one really asked for. Did we really need the 5 whole sequels to Toy Story, the 2 live-action adaptations to Lion King, or the 13 whole sequels to Land Before Time? They're not making these movies because they care. No. They're making these movies because they see money. Not quality of story, not life, not anything. They only see money in animation. They don't see the potential. It's very sad to see all of these companies that made all of our favorite shows and movies end up like this. Just greedy corporate budget movies. But you see, what people don't see is that we still have a bunch of shows that capture that same feeling. And that's exactly where indie animation comes in. The term indie animation is a show or maybe even a movie created by a small group of people who are self-funded. And in our year of 2025, indie animation is going crazy. No matter of what genre of animation you like, there's always going to be an indie animation for it. If you like sci-fi, they have something for it. If you like horror, there's already some out there. If you just like something plain simple that's not too complex, there's so many of them. It's outsmarting multiple companies that have like $1 million budgets, and that includes Disney. Disney is falling to indie animation. How, you may ask? Well, let me show you. This is a 4-part list on how to make a good animated product. Story, quality, representation, and adapting. And in this video, I'll explain why indie animation succeeds and mainstream animation fails. Story is obvious when you have to make animated products. You want to make it understandable, but not too understandable because it kind of takes away from the mystery. You also don't want to make every single scene matter. It's really important to have filler in there. For mainstream animation, Megamind 2 falls very flat on its face when it comes to story.
Hello, loyal viewers. Like me, you probably never thought this day would come. I see some old friends. I see new friends. I see friends who frankly should put some pants on and venture outside occasionally.
The story fails to be understandable in any way, shape, and form, especially because it's supposed to be a sequel to the first movie. The first movie was a masterpiece. It was a movie about a super villain turning good, and that was basically the whole premise. But the story concept may sound bland. The first movie was really good because it was funny, it had a good cast, it had actual life lessons, and it was also relatable, etc. The sequel throws all of those good moments away and turns it into some kid's slop. First off, the movie says that this takes place 2 days after the first movie. This makes absolutely no sense. This would have been fine if they somehow made it work, but it doesn't. The city is completely rebuilt from the fight with Titan. In 2 days, Megamind turns stupid. In 2 days. He treats Minion like crap, even though that they were good friends for like their entire lives, and they were really good friends at the end of the last movie. In 2 days. Roxanne, for some reason, doesn't like her job as a reporter now. In 2 days. Social media is now a thing, even though it didn't exist in the first movie at all. In 2 days! The movie also claims that Megamind worked with this syndicate called the Doom Syndicate, even though that it was never specified that they existed at all in the first movie. It just ruins the story even further because they didn't exist up until now. This isn't supposed to be a sequel to Megamind. No, this is supposed to be a pilot to the Megamind Peacock show for kids. Even though that the trailers for Megamind 2 was targeting us, the people who watched the first movie back in 2010. It's just a complete idiotic and irrelevant movie. Don't watch, only watch the first movie. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there's no true Megamind sequel. Indie animation, on the other hand, has Meta Runner, which is forgotten an oldish show, but still probably one of their best.
Woo! We own it, this baby!
Watch out!
Meta Runner's story is complex, but understandable at the same time. It also tells the complete story it wants to tell without dragging it on even further. Family Guy, Simpsons, SpongeBob. Meta Runner is about this girl named Tari waking up in this cyber-aesthetic city ran by gaming, where a company called Task Corp tries to hunt her down because of the Meta Runner arm that she has. That's the basic story plot for Meta Runner, but there's way much more than just that summary. It may seem simple, but there's a lot of questions that you start to grow in your head as the show goes on. Questions like, who's this character? How did she get there? What is the Meta Runner arm? Etc. But as the story progresses, it slowly answers all of those questions. And by the time when Season 3 is over, all of those questions that you had will probably be resolved. Though probably not all of them might be answered. It's just storytelling at its peak. Quality fits into multiple categories, but the two main big ones that we're talking about are animation and story. The animation doesn't have to be perfect, but the story must be at least good. In the case of mainstream animation, Cars 2 looks very beautiful, but the story is less than beautiful.
Whatever you do not eat the free pistachio ice cream.
The movie has two plots, the main one and the side one, and I'll summarize them both. It'll be very short because there's basically no flavor to the plots, both of them. Starting with the side one, McQueen is racing some Italian race car who I don't know their name, and he has to go to different countries to race him. The main one is very, very stupid and much worse. The main plot is about this stupid freaking spy car, Finn McMissile, who confuses Mater for an American spy, and they have to work together to defuse some bomb in London, while there's a whole bunch of guns and bombs happening in the movie. I don't know. That is a step-by-step tutorial on how to make a low-quality film. So, this is obviously a sequel to Cars. It was just a silly little cartoony movie just about where a car wants to win a race but realizes that winning isn't everything. That movie was very down to earth. But turning the plot of Cars into a spy movie isn't down to earth at all. Okay, this is editing Mr. Ring-a-Ding right now. I'm going to provide a bit more context because I provide no context on why this doesn't work for Cars 2. Basically, turning the down-to-earth plot that was from Cars and turning it into a spy movie doesn't follow what the original was supposed to be, and it completely ruins everything and makes everything much worse. So that's just a bit of context for you. Okay, back to the video. Also, why is Lightning McQueen shafted to the side plot? I thought he was the main character of the last movie. Why is it now the freaking side character? Why? But you gotta hand it to Pixar. The animation in this movie is very high quality and very pretty. Some of the scenery in London or that one place in Tokyo they went to, I forgot where it was because I don't want to watch this movie ever again, all have very pretty scenery and lighting. And at some parts, it just kind of looks like it's live action. But no amount of high quality animation can hide the low quality story. For any animation, we have the oldest and also the only movie on here, Hoodwinked. Alright, sorry to stop everything again, but this counts as an indie animation. It was made by indie company, so delete the comments that you're writing right now saying, actually, Hoodwink isn't a indie animation.
Everything?
That's right.
You just talked! Just now!
Did I?
Hoodwinked, agreed upon by many, is a pretty good movie, despite how god-awful the animation is. the animation is terrible, but I'll get into that like later. So Hoodwinked is a take on the Little Red Riding Hood fairy tale, but there's a big difference between all the other takes on it. You see, this one turns it into a police-style documentary. A frog by the name of Nicky Flippers interviews all of the witnesses of the crime scene. Red, Granny, the Wolf, and Kirk, with Kirk not being in the original fairy tale. Each of the characters get interviewed by Nicky. And here's the part where what makes Hoodwinked actually good. Each of the characters being interviewed tell the exact same story, but from their perspective. All of the stories that they're telling are all actually happening at once. You can tell because in a really creative way, you could like spot tiny details of one person's story happening in another person's story. And at the end of each of their story, they all end at the same note, with Kirk breaking through the wall with an axe. This story is insanely creative and a great way on telling the Red Riding Hood story, but in like a better way, to be honest. It's really cool to spot all the tiny hidden details in each of their stories. And on top of that, the movie has actual good jokes, actual good musical numbers, and also an actual twist villain. Which I won't show because you should go watch this movie if you can handle the bad animation. Speaking of the animation, yeah, there's no sugarcoating it. It is absolutely horrific. The characters move really choppy. The models of the characters look abnormal and creepy. The entire movie feels like it could belong in the Uncanny Valley. And it wasn't even good for the time, because movies like Shrek 2, The Incredibles, the SpongeBob movie, etc., they all released around the same time, and they all look much better than this. Even Toy Story, the very first 3D animated movie, looks better than this. But with the fantastic quality of the story, it takes this movie from being god-awful trash to being a pretty good movie. Also, there's a sequel to this. It has much better animation, but it sucks. The story's much worse, and don't watch the sequel. Only watch the first one. Representation is pretty optional depending on what you're making, but you should still think about adding representation. Representation in animation is where you have a character representing some sort of community of some sort. For example, probably the LGBTQ community or Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And not only are they representing, but they have to represent it well. If you don't represent it well, you could end up making an offensive thing. The character I chose for mainstream animation is Joe Swanson from Family Guy.
This is my wheelchair! There are many like it, but this one is mine! Without me, my wheelchair is useless! Without my wheelchair, I am useless! Shut up!
Okay.
Family Guy is one of the most popular adult animated shows out there. And Joe Swanson in that show is handicapped, meaning that he represents the disabled community. But first, let's talk about how Joe Swanson used to represent the disabled community in a very good way. In seasons 1 through 7, Joe Swanson proved himself to be one of the strongest characters on the show, despite being handicapped. He worked for the police force, even though that he's in a wheelchair. But even though he had a disadvantage, he was still able to catch criminals with ease. And if someone or something were to make fun of his disability, he would be the stronger man and shut them up in some way, shape, and form. This represented the disabled community extremely well, because it told them that even if you have a life-altering injury or something like that, you can still do strong things in life. But then there's Season 8 and onward. Yeah, ever since Season 8, they turned Joe into a very strong character to a sad crybaby of a man. You see, alongside other character changes that came with Season 8, like Peter becoming a jerk or Stewie becoming comedic relief, Joe became a great representation to being extremely offensive. Now the show is making fun of the fact that he's in a wheelchair. characters started making fun of him way more and even using offensive terms for him, most notably, crippled. And instead of dealing it like he did in the past, he now is just a crybaby. He just weeps and weeps because of it. Not always, but that's usually how the outcome is. They also added a reoccurring joke about how Joe wants to commit suicide because of his disability. This is absolutely awful. Like, I get it. It's an adult animated show. There's obviously going to be some offensive jokes here and there, but changing his entire character to be this sad excuse of a man because he's handicapped, that's just wrong, even for an adult animated show. Yeah, you can make an argument that this doesn't really matter, but just so you know, he represented the disabled community well before, but they just ruined that. I can talk about it all day, but I want to move on. Within the animation, I chose Zooble from The Amazing Digital Circus.
Speak for yourself. If anyone needs me, then f*** off.
Oh god, oh jeez!
Now don't go into the comments and say,
"Oh, actually, this isn't a fair fight because the things that they're representing are very different."
but still, Zooble represents what they're representing much better than what Joe is trying to represent. Zooble is representing the transgender community, which is part of the LGBTQ community. Zooble is the show's quote-unquote rebellious character.
Zooble's the grumpy one.
That too, I guess. They refuse to go on Kane's adventures, their voice sounds pretty dead, and we don't really see them hang out with anyone else. Except for Gangle. They do this not because they're a bad person, it's because they're being realistic. They hate the cartoon body that they're in, and they don't go on Kane's adventures because of it. They want to be as normal as can be, judging by the bar scene in episode 5, where they talk about their past lives before they ended up in the circus. You see, Zooble is a genderless character, which in real life, that's what people call agender. Agender, they're not, the A is not separate, the A is part of the word. We could tell this by how the characters refer to them as they, and how Gooseworks in some old sketches of hers joked about how none of the characters actually know Zooble's gender.
Okay, cool, they're agender. How does it represent the transgender community in a great way?
Well, let's take a look at Zooble's character design. You see, the main gimmick of Zooble is that they have detachable parts, being able to attach and detach any limbs that they want. And like I said before, they don't like this. They don't like the cartoon feature of it. They can't find parts that they want to make them feel completely normal. That's why we see Zooble with different parts in every single episode. It's a bit of a body dysmorphia type thing. And if it's canonical that they actually have body dysmorphia, then they also represent that really well too. According to the Gender Wiki, agender people can, but don't have to, experience gender dysmorphia if they're unable to express their identity in a way they're comfortable with. And with the way that how Zooble feels about their body, these pretty much match up. Since they hate the way that their body attaches and detaches, they can't really decide on their identity that they're comfortable with. It represents it really well, and it represents the transgender community almost perfectly. Depending on how much you care for your story, adaptation is important because it allows you to expand on the universe that you already made. You want your adaptation to feel like the original, but just not be, well, the original, because that's uninspiring. With mainstream animation, it's all about Disney's reputation and their habit in making live-action adaptations. A live-action adaptation is where Disney takes one of their original classics and recreates them in live-action. They existed for years, but they really blew up in the 2010s and 2020s. It was interesting at the time, but fast forward to 2025, they failed so badly. It's very much obvious that Disney's now making these movies, not because, well, they care, like I said. No, it's just cash grabs at this point. Every 2 years or so, Disney recreates a classic that didn't need remaking at all. They did it so much that every time when a live-action adaptation releases, all of the charm from the original movie is all gone. Now, take a guess on how many classics have Disney recreated to live action. The answer is 25 out of 64 movies. Now that may not sound like much, but just so you know, this is according to like the 2020s. So it's gonna keep on going up, and it has been in recent times. For some of the earlier adaptations, they still felt like they have something new to offer, but also like still be the original story. But the more recent ones feel very bland. It's like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but without any peanut butter or jelly. So it's just bread. For indie animation, I chose Anna and Anna Dream Barbecue.
Can't you hurry? We need to go find a spot.
When it comes to indie animation, you typically don't really think of Anna. But with the video game adaptation Anna Dream Barbecue, it did such a great job at expanding the universe while keeping things completely fresh and inspiring. Anna, created by Joel G., had a unique take on how it progressed its plot. You'll be watching the show through the direct POV of the main character, Anna, meaning you will see what she sees. At first, it doesn't sound like anything special. Multiple movies and shows have already done it. Anna didn't invent it. But the neat part is that the settings and the scenery of the show is similar to one of an old 2000s game. With this combination, it feels like you're playing an old 2000s game, something that no other indie animation has done. After when the third episode released, Joel would announce that Anna would be adapted to a video game. This was genius, because Anna already felt like you're playing a video game, but now you're, well, actually playing it. After numerous delays, it was finally released on March 27th of this year. How well did it adapt Anna? Perfectly. The game had different characters, different settings, different story, different everything, but it still felt like it was part of the same universe. It took all of the uniqueness that made Anna, well, unique, and spat it out into a game. There were the obvious things that they kept, like the story progressing and the liminality feeling of the settings, but then they also made the characters unique as the characters as the ones in the original series, even down to like the basic NPCs. It also carries over a similar plot from the original series to the game. Thanks to the fans of the original Anna series and gamers in general who just watched the trailer, it now sits at the top 5 highest rated Steam games of 2025. Which is really impressive. Okay, so I just rambled on and how indie animation does these keys better than how mainstream animation does it, but how does this answer if indie animation is better than mainstream? Most of mainstream animation just sees money and greed in animation. Sure, there's a bunch of good mainstream animated companies like Studio Ghibli or DreamWorks. They all make great animated films. But then there's stuff like Disney or Nickelodeon, which they milk the hell out of their series. People don't want to see poor and low quality stories, they don't want to see live action adaptations, they don't want to see offensive characters, they want none of that. And indie animation does that perfectly. They have good representations and good storytelling and good adaptations, all of that. For example, K-Pop Demon Hunter is the most watched animated movie of 2025. But take a look at the Amazing Digital Circus pilot. That has 400 million views, which is much more than K-Pop Demon Hunters. And the Amazing Digital Circus pilot, may I remind you, is an indie animation. Seriously, if you haven't considered watching any indie animations, go watch them. In fact, here's a list of ones that I recommend. You'll be surprised on how high quality some of them could get. And like I said, if you like a specific type of animation genre, there's gonna be an indie animation for you. I cannot recommend you enough how much you should watch indie animated shows or movies. Remember to support these indie creators. They work hard and they need the money so they can produce more shows. Buy a piece of their merch, or if they have something like a GoFundMe or something like that, or maybe a Patreon, go support that as well. So that's basically it for this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so I could be more encouraged to finish the end of video, because I haven't even started on that. And that's all I got. See ya.
You look convoluted!